Well, those times, they're a-changing. There's a brutal new sport that is gaining in popularity with America's youth. You won't believe this.
It's the real-life fight club. Call it mixed martial arts, cage fighting, or ultimate fighting. It's the fastest-growing sport in the United States, and guess what? It's come a long way from the bloody free-for-all beatings that have ruled pay-per-view since the early 1990s. Now the sport where burly tough guys beat each other senseless is branching out to include America's youth. The bare-knuckle fights are now attracting competitors, get this, as young as 6 years old. Combatants enter a cage and square off in an often bloody mix of boxing, wrestling, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu. Critics such as presidential candidate John McCain have described the brutal sport as human cockfighting. While America has come to embrace and revel in the spectacle of ultimate fighting, is the country ready to rally behind a kindergartner cage match? TJ Aguilia is the father of 2 7-year-old twins who have been competing in cage fighting for about a year now.
I support my kids regarding, just the way a father would support their kid doing football. I give them the same support. The cage fight, as everybody thinks, that's just basically an icing to the cake to them. It's not all about that. That's only a place for these kids to show their skills that they work hard for on a day-to-day basis, studying all these skills. Nothing like these people, the other people that disagree with it, they portray it as cockfighting or whatnot. It's totally, you gotta understand.
Supporters of the sport acknowledge that fights between young kids sounds barbaric, but they insist the battles have plenty of rules to ensure the kids' safety.
They utilize gloves that's thicker than what your standard adult MMA gloves are. They utilize shin guards, mouthpiece, cuffs, and everything. So they're pretty much well protected.
Joe Miller is the administrator of the Oklahoma Professional Boxing Commission. He believes the sport is too violent for young kids and can cause serious damage to developing bodies.
Mixed martial arts is essentially all the sports wrapped up into one. They're not mentally prepared to master one discipline, much less a combination of disciplines. They're just too young, and they could injure themselves where it would, harm them further down the line later on in life.
Ultimate fighting is expanding exponentially, and for many, the concern is that the kid version will pick up similar momentum. As of now, Missouri is the only state in the nation that allows youth cage fighting. Many states consider it a misdemeanor, while several have absolutely no regulations on the sport at all. The Oklahoma Professional Boxing Commission has no intention to allow youth cage fights in their state, and it plans to keep it that way.
We have to approve any organization to oversee that type of combative sports. Our commission's position is we're not going to approve anybody to oversee youth MMA at this time.
While Joe and his commission intend on keeping kids out of the cage, it may not prove so easy down the line. Top ultimate fighters are pulling in millions from commercial endorsements to more movies featuring the sport, and the business side of this violent pastime is pushing ultimate fighting into the mainstream. So the question is, when it comes to picking Little League or Pee Wee football, will your 6-year-old choose to step into the cage instead?
All right, joining us now is Nathan Oran. Now, you train these 6-year-olds?
Absolutely.
Explain what the training process includes.
Well, mixed martial arts is just that. It's a martial art comprised of several different martial arts. So what I do is within one facility, I bring several martial arts that the youth of America already practice today into one facility and teach it as a whole.
All right, now, look, ultimate fighting, I guess if adults want to get in a cage and fight it out with each other, they have the ability to make a decision here. We're talking about 6-year-old kids, putting them in cages, and ultimate fighting is about brutalizing your opponent. It's putting these kids at risk. Why would you want to be a part of that?
It's actually not brutalizing these kids.
It looks brutal to me.
Well, to the untrained eye, it may look a little brutal at first, but what you've got to understand, it's actually safer than boxing. It's safer than a lot of your wrestling. We've made provisions for these kids to make this totally safe. It is one of the safest sports that they can practice today.
It's like, I think we have an obligation to, as adults, to look out for the safety of kids. Do you ever think about that?
I absolutely agree with you, and that's exactly what we've done with the Freestyle Combat League. The rules in the Freestyle Combat League are You know, standing, they do their kickboxing and their boxing, which they are already allowed to do. Once hit the ground, they cannot strike above the shoulders. That is a rule. There is no striking above the shoulders. In the Freestyle Combat League, if you get picked up and you get slammed, you have shock-resistant headgear on. In that aspect, it makes it safer than wrestling.
I look at this video, and I see the exploitation of children, and I think if, in spite of what your mathematics is here, I think you're playing on the fact that people like controversy, people like combat, and you're exploiting, in this particular case, young children so that you can benefit.
Well, actually, I'm not playing off any controversy or anything. I didn't contact the news media. The news media contacted me.
Because everybody sees it as brutal. Don't you get it?
Everybody doesn't see it as brutal.
Most people that I've talked to see it as brutal.
How many martial artists have you spoke to?
I know a lot of people. I'll ask them about it, but I'm just telling you that you look at this video and it's young kids brutalizing each other.
Absolutely not. I don't think that at all. As a matter of fact, it proves that if you look at the 2,000 consistence of sports injuries in youth, boxing, martial arts, and wrestling are among the lowest of injuries, behind cheerleading, golf, bowling. This is a completely safe art. Let me finish. This is a completely safe art, just as it is for the adults.
It's relatively new.
Through mixed martial arts.
Hang on a second. You're putting kids in cages. You're having them hit hard. This has the potential, as it grows, because it's relatively new, to really, really do damage. And that is something you ought to be considering as you move forward.
They've proved that it is safer than boxing.
All right, we got to run.
They've proved it is a safer sport than boxing.
Nathan.
And it is the same for the youth.
You're rationalizing, but we appreciate you being with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And coming up,